Because otherwise, at the moment, if we don't have that, if that shift doesn't happen, and we are not at a macro level able to have some kind of massive shift towards again privatization of information and ideas and patents and knowledge. We can do this and multiply it and upscale it for the next 50 years and it will be worth it. Because at the moment, as we speak, the American education system is teaching children, it is being woven into school curriculum that anything that carries a copyright notice, if you are sharing it, you are a thief. Just imagine what are the implications of this, civilizationally, for knowledge, for the very idea of ownership. Now, of course, it's not going to happen like that. There's lots of resistance. I think technology will undermine all this because as the man who gave us the World Wide Web, by the way, how many people know his name? I'm very curious. I always like to ask this question. How many people know who gave us the World Wide Web? Just remotely, any glimmer of his name. I'll tell you why you don't know, because he's not a billionaire. His name is Tim Berners-Lee. He's a British-born scientist who at that time was working at a lab in Switzerland. And you know, he came up with a very brilliant logic for why he put it out as a commons. He didn't patent it. He said, I couldn't patent it and have it be a World Wide Web. The only way I could make it a World Wide Web was to put it out there as a commons. Otherwise, it would have been a Berners-Lee web, then there would have been a Gates web, then there would have been a Jobs web, and then there would have been a Hewlett-Packard web. It wouldn't have been a World Wide Web. So he is saying it in a very basic way. That look, once you have seen something on the web, you have already copied it. Please let us accept that technology has made 20th century notions of ownership obsolete. We are now trying to we are twisting ourselves into pretzels to try and apply those. So, and this is a pattern that is repeating itself in many areas of life. In a sense, in a nutshell, and I'll close there, is that we are going to have to struggle to connect our ground level activities, without which also nothing will happen. The internet is being run by open source because 25 years ago, people ran the equivalent of what Mr. Koshi is doing and what Bablu are doing. Without that, today, 85–90% of the internet would not be running on open source. So there is no substitute for this groundwork. But that alone will not do it. And we must make the connections between that ground level work and these larger questions by constantly, ceaselessly, sometimes annoyingly and irritatingly raising these questions in every possible form. And eventually we have to do it in an organized way. And the crux of it, I'll just close by sharing a small story that a villager activist in Bihar said to a friend of mine. He said, "Dekho madam ji, it's very simple. Problem ye hai, in the beginning, long ago, there was only society. Long ago, there was only society. It had problems, but you know, people had their own ways of working with them. Then government came up, society became to second place. In colonialism, he says when colonialism came and society came to second place and market was still in third place. He says now market is number one, government is number two, and society is a poor third. And there is no template, no simple slide that we can carry around with us as we run these enterprises to save ourselves from that reality. But maybe if we think about it and keep it in our minds, maybe we have a better chance. Because otherwise, sometimes you can win the battle but lose the war by becoming like the person you want to overcome. Thank you.
I needed to understand from Rajni about the statement that probably we need to monetize everything too, and that's the only way we are going to save it. I need you to elaborate on that.
Actually, I am not saying that everything should be monetized. What I meant was that we are caught in a loop, and many people like us who don't want everything to be monetized are still compelled to do so because they are operating in a larger system which doesn't respond to non-monetized claims of value. And so it's a firefighting exercise. And yet this struggle to create value, a system of having value, seeing value, which is not connected to money, is still very nascent, but it is there.
I think even monetizing some of your social aspects will give a lot of self-esteem to the people you are working with. Because if they realize what they're doing, and that is also in terms of money, that will give a lot of self-esteem. So I agree with you, in general, the outer world really want to see this as a return on their investment. And the bigger amount the return is, the more happy they are. But I also see the other side of it. It gives a lot of self-esteem to the people. For instance, in our program is the Maasai. We have done a social return on investment. The women and even the men really feel very proud that the $1 we have put in, we can translate in $5 to them, and then, we really mean something in the world.
Actually, you're jumping.
Yeah. We may have to choose whether we want to be developed or civilized, and I think the two things may be different. Because if we have to monetize everything in order for it to be, I, for example, very passionately disagree with that, the proposition that we should encourage people to connect their self-esteem with money. So, if that is the case, and in fact, and I know you are responding to a reality, that is the reality in which the world is operating, and so it means that we have to choose, that we can either be civilized or we can be developed, but then the two clearly are not going together.